Brahmana and Vaishnava. The conclusive comparison between Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Translated by Bhumipati Das. Continuation 25. Vyavahar Kanda. Section concerning behavior. The readers have already been introduced to material and spiritual personalities in the previous 2 chapters. In this chapter, we will discuss the comparison in the behavior of these 2. According to mundane consideration, one has to be qualified for any activity that he engages in. Otherwise, if an activity is performed by an unqualified person, there will be so many obstacles. Intelligent persons at different times have introduced various processes in order to benefit the people in general. Among these processes, some are beneficial for the present life and some are beneficial for the next life. Any simple-minded person can easily understand what is beneficial for the present life. Yet, being unable to experience subjects of the next life, they introduce complex, fallacious arguments. According to the variety of people's taste, behavior, and expertise, they reach various conclusions while discussing topics regarding the next life. People with similar natures who follow such people become attached to a particular opinion and reject contrary opinions. Generally, people in the mode of goodness have different opinions in every respect from those who are influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. And when one is situated in pure goodness and exhibits a mood of indifference, his activities are distinct from the activities of one in goodness, which counteracts passion and ignorance. Conceptions regarding the next life in the hands of the 4 above-mentioned classes of thinkers assume 4 different forms. Thus, there will certainly be differences among unregulated sense enjoyers, fruitive workers, mental speculators, and devotees. These 4 categories have descended through disciplic succession in various branches since time immemorial. People accept whatever they find favorable, and in this way they exhibit their individual qualifications. If one speaks only of his own qualification without understanding others' qualifications, then there will be no benefit for the other party. Rather, this will create innumerable, never-ending arguments. That is why instructions according to one's qualification produce better results. We often hear about quarrels between 2 parties, and by taking sides we identify our position. This is called partiality. Yet, as far as possible, one should maintain neutrality on the strength of superior, noble education. When realized through only the Samvid aspect, the Absolute Truth appears devoid of eternal bliss and is called Brahman. When realized through the combined Samvit and Sandhini aspects, the Absolute Truth still appears devoid of Hladini or spiritual bliss and is called Paramatma. And when the Sat, Chit, Ananda aspects are simultaneously manifest, the Absolute Truth is called Bhagavan. Although the Absolute Truth is one, the knowers of the truth have realized this Advaya Gyan, or non-dual supreme consciousness, in 3 different forms. An absence of Hladini, or eternal bliss, from the Absolute Truth is contradictory to Advaya Gyan. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11 it is stated, dualist consciousness is called Maya from the aspect of knowledge, Viyoga from the aspects of existence and awareness, and abhakti, non-devotion, from the aspects of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Learned transcendentalists who know the science of the absolute truth call this non-dual consciousness, quote, the non-dual reality, end quote. Advaya Tattva. They call that one entity by the three names Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. When the Mayavad philosophy is resorted to, Brahman and Paramatma are considered different from Bhagavan. Some learned scholars are Brahmins, some are yogis, and some are Bhagavatas. None of these three categories of men maintain material desires. Practically, it is seen that when any of the above-mentioned transcendentalists forget their constitutional position as a result of dualistic consciousness born of material absorption, and they consider themselves to some extent the doers in the field of activities due to various material desires, they then exhibit mutual differences in their tastes. They are then swallowed by the material kingdom's conceptions of superiority and inferiority. When they realize their constitutional position, their fruitive mentality is diminished, and they develop equal vision. At this point, we do not wish to enter further into the complexities of the scriptures, but we can say this much. For one who has a particular material taste, that taste appears supreme. The faith of living beings is determined by how they identify themselves. Therefore, if we want to make an impartial comparison, we should not be overcome by distorted understanding like the karmis. Our impartial statements will never be in agreement with those of the karmis. Therefore, until the karmis advance to a higher platform, they will not be able to understand our impartial statements. They will wrongly consider us selfish like themselves and hold us in contempt, thus uselessly wasting their time. We have already discussed eligibility and position. One kind of eligibility may be strange to another person, but when he also attains that eligibility, it becomes palatable to him. Although there are different positions, steadiness in one's own position is called piety, and the opposite is called impiety. When one is situated in a particular position, he can see the faults of others. But if the statuses are equal, then there is no opportunity for such differences. If the Brahmins, yogis, and devotees do not consider each other's qualifications, there will certainly be quarrels among them and various difficulties in ascertaining their relative positions. If one impartially and carefully determines the position and eligibility of a subject, he will be able to reconcile everything properly. Otherwise, he merely becomes disturbed and accomplishes nothing. Persons whose behavior we are presently comparing have various goals. Hence, the differences in their behavior are inevitable. Prakriti-jan refers to an enjoyer of temporary sense gratification. The term Prakriti-jan, or one who is transcendental to material nature, is used to refer to a renunciate, while the term Harijan refers to the community of those who give up the propensities for enjoying and renouncing and are interested in the eternal service of Hari. Just because the Prakriti-jans do not respect the behavior of the Prakriti-jans or the Harijans, that does not mean that the behavior of the Harijans is not respectable. Although the Harijans appear similar to the Prakriti-jans while living in this world, that does not mean that their behavior will not differ. While living with the Prakriti-jans, the Prakriti-jans approve their activities, and since they deny their own liberated position, they do not feel inclined to behave differently from others while living in this world. But because the contrary moods of the Harijan's eternal position are more or less opposite to those of the Prakritijans of this material world, there are bound to be differences between them. Differences in transcendental realization is the cause of this discrimination. The three features of the non-dual absolute truth are endowed with energies. Bhagavan is the supreme controller of all illusory and spiritual energies. Paramatma, as the indwelling supersoul, is the lord of most of the illusory energy and a portion of the spiritual energy, while Brahman is pure consciousness in isolation from all qualities that are known in terms of the Supreme Lord's energies. As an object is perceived differently by different senses, so the Absolute Truth, although one, appears in three forms. These three, however, should not be considered actually different. It has already been described that the possessor of the material and spiritual energies cannot be perceived simply through impersonal knowledge. Although through the combined features of the Sat and Chit aspects, the Supreme Lord's mastery over the illusory energy and the variegatedness of Vaikuntha is found. These features do not reveal the fullness of the expanded pastimes of the energy and the energetic. The Supreme Lord fully manifests only through the combination of the Sat, Chit, and Ananda aspects. Thus, the indifferent Brahmanas who know Brahman, the yogis who realize the Supersoul, and the devotees of the Supreme Lord are all engaged in serving the Advaya Gyan, Absolute Truth. The karmis who are full of material desires, the jnanis who have renounced material desires, and the devotees who have developed faith in topics of Lord Hari are all yogis. The difference between them is that some are karma yogis, some are jnana yogis, and others are bhakti yogis. These three types of persons have the Advaya Gyan truth alone as their asset. The devotees of the Lord are in full knowledge of Krishna. The yogis are in full knowledge of the indwelling Supersoul who resides in the heart of everyone and is the master of Vaikuntha. And the Brahmanas are in full knowledge of impersonal Brahman, which is devoid of variegated, transcendental, blissful pastimes. On the pretext of philosophical argument, no one should say that the devotees have no knowledge of Krishna. The yogis have no knowledge of the Supersoul, and the Brahmanas have no knowledge of Brahman. All three, in their own capacity, are actually worshippers of the Advaya Gyan truth. If the Brahmanas who know Brahman desire to practice yoga, they can do so. And if they desire to worship Krishna, they can also do so. If the devotees of Krishna become averse to worshipping Krishna, in other words, if they fall from the path of devotional service, they can become karma yogis or jnana yogis. And if they fall from knowledge of Krishna or knowledge of the Supersoul, they can become brahmanas on the platform of impersonal knowledge. The yogis are situated on a platform below the devotees of the Lord, and the brahmanas who know Brahman are situated on a platform below the yogis. The yogis who have realized the Supersoul can advance to the position of the devotees, or degrade to the position of impersonalist brahmanas. When brahmanas accept the doctrine of fruitive activities in the world of material qualities, they also become affected by material qualities. In such a condition, the Brahmana's impersonal knowledge becomes dormant, and when they are freed from material qualities by the influence of impersonal knowledge, they can also become transcendental Brahmanas.